Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going on a bit of a journey. We're going to trace one single, powerful idea through just a handful of ancient Greek words, and we're going to see how the simple act of writing, well, it became a kind of theological battleground. It's a story of life and death, all told through how one little word evolves. So, let's dive right in.
So, this is the big question at the heart of it all. It seems kind of strange, right? How can something as simple as writing, just letters on a page, hold the power to bring both spiritual life and spiritual death? It feels like a paradox. Well, to figure it out, we've got to go all the way back to the beginning. You know how it is. Every big, complex idea really starts with something simple. Our journey begins with the absolute basics. We're going to look at the move from the physical action of writing to the actual thing it creates. Trust me, getting this foundation right is totally key to understanding the conflict that's coming. Okay, so it all begins with this one Greek word, grapho. This is the verb, it's the action. And originally, it meant to literally carve or engrave something. Like etching symbols into a rock. It's a word that's really rooted in a physical, tangible act. And from this one simple starting point, our entire story is going to unfold. All right, so if grapho is the doing part, what do you get when you're done? Well, you get the gramma. A gramma is the thing that has been written down. Could be a single letter of the alphabet, a formal document, really any piece of writing. It's the physical object you have at the end of the action. Now let's see how this very neutral object was actually used. And what's really interesting is how, well, normal this word is at first. If you look through the New Testament, gramma is used for all sorts of everyday things. A bill of debt, the actual large letters that Paul writes with his own hand, a formal piece of mail. It's even used to talk about someone's education or learning. So at this point, a gramma is just a thing. It doesn't have any danger attached to it. But hold on, because that is all about to get turned on its head. Okay, and this is where our story takes a massive turn. That neutral object, that simple piece of writing, is about to become charged with a new, incredibly powerful, and, well, dangerous meaning. Because when the Apostle Paul gets a hold of this word, gramma, he totally transforms it. It stops being just a document and it becomes the letter. And he means something very specific, the letter of the law. Suddenly, it starts to represent a rigid external religious code, one that you could follow perfectly on the outside, but without any real change on the inside. And this right here is the central conflict of our entire story. Paul puts the gramma, the letter, in direct opposition to the pneuma, the spirit. The letter is this rigid code on the outside. The spirit is this living power on the inside. One is about following rules. The other is about internal transformation. The contrast could not be more dramatic. One leads to death, and the other gives life. This is the verse where it all just comes together in one powerhouse statement. Paul doesn't pull any punches. The letter kills, but the spirit gives life. I mean, he's making this huge statement about two completely different ways to live out your faith. One is based on a static, written code, and the other is based on a dynamic, living relationship, which of course begs the question, who were the champions of this deadly letter? So in this theological drama, who are the antagonists? Every story needs them, right? Well, in this case, the part is played by the experts in the written word, the guardians of the Gramma. Let me introduce you to the grammateus, or as we know them, the scribe. Notice that root word in there, gramma. A grammateus is literally a letterman. This is his whole world. He's a scholar, an expert, a teacher of the written law. His entire authority, his whole identity, is built on mastering the gramma. And if you look at the Gospels, you start to see this pattern over and over again. The scribes, these masters of the written letter, are constantly showing up as the intellectual opposition to Jesus. They're always testing him with the law, defending their traditions, because Jesus represents a living, breathing reality that their rigid code just can't handle. They are the ultimate defenders of the letter that kills. So we've got this major conflict set up, the deadly gramma versus the life-giving spirit. How does this get resolved? Well, it turns out the answer is hiding in another very similar word for writing, one that completely redefines the whole point of the written word. And that word is graph. Now, on the surface, it also means a writing, just like gramma. But here's the thing. In the New Testament, its usage is incredibly specific. It almost always refers to just one thing, the sacred scriptures. So it's not just a writing, it's the writing. This isn't some neutral document. This is divinely inspired stuff.
And who gives us the key to understanding grapheme? Jesus himself. He says to the religious leaders of his day, "You search the scriptures because you think that in them you have eternal life." But then he hits them with this crucial twist, "And it is they that bear witness about me." And with that one line, he completely reframes the whole purpose of the sacred text.
And that right there is the game changer. Graphe, the scriptures, aren't meant to be a static rulebook that you just follow. That's the Gramma. Now, Graphe is a dynamic, living testimony. It's something that has to be fulfilled. It's a signpost, always pointing to a person, to a reality that's bigger than the text itself. It's the written word that points to the living word. Okay, our journey is almost at its end. We've gone from a simple carving to a deadly code to a living testimony. And that brings us to our final word and our ultimate destination. And our final word is graptos. It's a simple little adjective that just means written. What's crazy about this word is that it only shows up once, just one time in the entire New Testament. So you know its one and only use has got to be super important. So where does it show up? Right here. Paul, the same guy who warned us about the letter that kills, uses this word, graptos, to describe the law not written on stone tablets, but written on human hearts. This is the ultimate resolution, isn't it? The external code becomes an internal reality. The whole conflict is resolved when truth is inscribed right inside of us.
And that's really the idea I want to leave you with. We've gone all the way from grapho to graptos, from a carving in stone to a truth in the soul. And it really makes you wonder, what if the highest purpose of any sacred text isn't just to be read and studied on the outside, but to be absorbed so deeply that it becomes a part of who you are, a living truth, written not with ink, but on the heart itself?